everybody, welcome. I am Daniel Garza, and this is another episode of Put It Together Conversations. It is Saturday, January 2nd. Happy New Year if you're just joining us for the first time on the shows. This is the first show of the new year, and I'm so excited as we speak. As I usually do, I'm trying to put the show out into the different forms, the other pages. So whatever it is that you're watching on, remember, you can join the conversation. So make sure that you are part of it. Go into the conversation. Remember, it's got to be in the black part of the thread. If it's not in there, then I can't see you. Uh, Happy New Year, everybody. I'm trying to get myself together. After all these years, I still don't have like the right way to do this. And you guys always catch me. But by the time it goes to YouTube, it looks so nice and clean. So make sure you go check us out on YouTube, where you can find all of the other episodes of Put Together Conversations. So thank you for joining us. My first guest this year, I am excited. First of all, I'm excited because I've been a fan of his work for a long time. And second, because he's such a nice guy. I've seen him speak, I've seen his work, and to be the first guest of the year is kind of cool. Because I just had your. Hi, Bruce. Welcome to the show. Do you think how unprepared I am today? How are you doing?
Good. How are you doing, Daniel?
And I don't know where my voice just went there, but
Hi, Daniel. Thank you. Thank you. I'm a fan of yours. That's why I was so excited to come on, because I've heard you speak, and when you asked me, I was like, oh, absolutely. I'm excited. I want to have a nice chat with you.
thank you. It blew my mind when you emailed me that, and I was like, oh my god, because first of all, just to let everybody know, Bruce is the founding and executive director of Prevention Access Campaign, which launched the U equals U, the Undetectable Equals Untransmitable campaign. And that is the t-shirt, let me move the microphone. That is the t-shirt I'm wearing today. I was able to find it. Yes, Bruce has one. I was able to find it in my closet. I don't remember. So whomever you were that sent it to me or made it available to me, thank you, because it was a sign that I was supposed to have you on my show. So I'm excited. How are you doing? How was the New Year's holidays?
It was actually maybe top 5 I've ever had, because I was with my family, and usually I'm like, actually a lot of times I go to bed before 10 o'clock. I don't want to deal with it, but was with my sister, my brother-in-law, and my nephew, and Zoomed with other members of the family, and it was just really special and a lot of fun. We did like virtual reality games, and it was just fun. And then the next day I joined the Polar Bear Club. So I went into the water, into a lake in Massachusetts, and froze my ass off, but it was invigorating. I mean, of course it was invigorating. And and actually I turned around and went right back in too. And then I got out and I felt like my toes were falling off and my fingers. But it was really great. It was really surprisingly wonderful. How was yours?
Uh, you know, uh, Christmas was cool. We usually go to Texas for the holiday, and well, this year we didn't go, and so it was kind of like, I missed the Texas Latino flavor. And if my nephew's watching this, I missed your carne asada. That was definitely there. But my birthday was December 26th, so I always look forward to Christmas because my birthday is right after.
Happy birthday. But does that mean that people combine your presents, or do you
No,
like, and then
not
get,
anymore.
you get
No, that is not allowed. They used to when I was a kid. They used to, especially because I had a nephew when I was 4. My nephew was born, and he's December 24th. So for a long time, it was a combined birthday, Christmas, birthday, all in one. But now that I'm older, I tell my friends, I no, I want a birthday present. So no, this is not
good.
happening. And I turned 50 this year, so I'm like really excited.
Wow, you look so
Yeah.
young. That's really great. You must have good like moisturizer or something. Also,
I took,
I jump back on what I said earlier. This is a learning opportunity. I just learned just maybe a month ago that gypsy is a really stigmatizing phrase, because it goes back to the word. I'm not gypped is a stigmatizing word. It goes back to gypsy, and it's sort of like talking about gypsies. I think it came from it's stigmatizing towards Jewish people. I can't remember what ethnicity or a background, but I know we don't say gypped anymore. Yeah, it's not a cool word. And yeah, I was very happy someone told me about that, because I used to use it. And I literally just used it on this show. So to anybody that's out there, I'm sorry, and let's move forward and not use that word.
Well, we'll have to talk about that more. We'll talk about that more during the episode. First, before I do, I want to say hi, Charles Sanchez, who's a mutual friend. Just said, "Hey boys" on the thread. So hi, Charles.
I know, I saw that down there. Hi, Charles. How you doing? What's going on?
Another great
Yes, Charles.
advocate, activist, and entertainment guy. So
Yeah.
happy to hear to you, buddy. I love him. I call him one of my cousins because we're so connected. We're very parallel in our personal and professional lives. So it's
Yeah.
really kind of cool. So as usual, guys, like I like to share about how I know my guests. I know Bruce. Really, this is like really the first time we've actually had like a conversation because I've known about him pretty much since my like this latter part of my advocacy life. I started hearing about him when U equals U started coming out. Um, Followed him. We've been at some of the same conferences. We've been at some of the same places for conventions, whatever. And then, but the last time I saw you was in New York. I saw you at a wedding in New York, and I was with Christian, and I was just telling him this story in the pre-production meeting. I was so intimidated. I was so like to me, you were. I mean, well, I guess because I work in advocacy a lot. To me, the advocacy people are my superheroes. This is where I geek out. So I saw you at the wedding. I was like, oh my God, that's Bruce. That's Bruce. But I was like, and Christian was like, well, go talk to him. I'm like, you can't just go talk to Bruce. Like I figured like I needed an appointment or something. And so I didn't talk to you, but I saw you at the wedding.
It's good you didn't. You're supposed to talk to my publicist first, and then I look down the list of people who want to talk to me, and then I, and then he'll reach out to you, and then organize a hello. Yeah.
I figured I had to offer something in sacrifice to you before I was allowed to talk to you. I was humbly going to bring some tacos to you. It's like, Senor,
tacos. Yes, tacos.
But I want to hear your story. So before we get all caught up in the conversations, Bruce Richman, I'm all nervous right now. Bruce Richman, tell us how you put it together.
Okay, so well, I in terms of like putting together, I'll talk about I could say the U equals U story. Yeah, there's the right. Is that what you want? I could talk about like.
We want to know you. Like how did you come to be, like for instance, in my eyes and a lot of people's, like how did you become Bruce Richman? Like,
yeah,
what was your journey like?
I mean, I think very, really from when I was really little, my mother's a human rights activist. She's a really, serious, very accomplished activist. And so I watched her from a very young age, and I saw her passion, and she was always speaking out and organizing and in the media and going and traveling internationally and doing all this work. And so she was a role model for me, and I think that I've always been driven by cause. Like, you see a problem, and it's a social problem, and you want to do something about it. It was never about anything except for helping people and doing the right thing. And I've been really lucky that it's kind of worked out along the way, that I've been able to get jobs and create jobs that were stuff that I loved, and we're helping change lives, I think. And so for me, getting diagnosed with HIV in 2003 was a big turning point, because it was sort of like a huge punch in the gut. And I'd actually been going through depression before that. An ex-boyfriend committed suicide, and so that led to a lot of sort of self-destructive thoughts and behavior. And I was living in London, and there was no support when I was diagnosed. There's just nobody to talk to. There was at the time. Now in London, there's tons of support services, but and I knew I would live. I knew the treatment would make me feel alive. I could. The advertisements were all like, you can climb mountains on X drug or whatever. Like, you can live. But I didn't want to live. I was suicidal. I thought no one would love me because I was toxic, and I didn't want to love anyone because I didn't want to pass on this deadly disease to someone that I loved. That was my mindset. I felt infectious, which is a terrible word and a terrible feeling. And so I didn't start medication, and I just stayed away from people, from men that I thought that I might have relationships with, and I really isolated myself. And then I'll just tell you like the stigma story. So then like that was 2003, and then around 2009, I decided, okay, something shifted. Like I'm a relationship person. I want to be in a relationship. It's been 6 years. I haven't been with anybody. And I started going out to date online because I thought it would be easier to like find someone who was the right fit that would accept my HIV positive diagnosis. So the first person that I met up with, I met on Connection. Do you remember that site? It was like,
Yeah.
I don't think it's there anymore. Right? Yeah.
No, 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 no.
But he was like, really handsome and kind, and just like, everything I wanted. It seemed like, at least on paper. And we went out to dinner. It was like a Chili's or something. And we were talking, and I was like, okay, just tell him, just say, I just want to let you know that I'm HIV positive, and da 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 da. And I was like, and U equals U wasn't around back then. And he just came out, and he made it easy for me. He just came out and said, I would never date anyone who's HIV positive, would you? And my heart just sunk, and my shoulders, I know he could see my shoulders just in my body just go like this. And I was like, I don't remember what I said. I think I said, oh, I haven't really thought about that. So I, ghosted him. Of course, the next one on Connection as well was a guy who was a former yoga teacher, open-minded, spiritual, adventurous. I'm scrolling down. I'm like, because he messaged me, this guy, right? Scrolling down, HIV negative only. And next one, I'm not kidding. This was like 4 in a row. This was like, I'm glad it happened, because I know what rejection's like now. I know what serious stigma is like, and feeling diseased, feeling like you're not worthy of love, and that the gay community is going to continue to reject you, especially gay men, that whatever. So this one, the next one was the head of an LGBT organization, and I still know him. He's friends with friends of mine. Head of a big organization, same thing, HIV negative only. He reached out to me, and I didn't respond. The final draw was, I did sort of date a little bit, and then, but was, so I stopped. That was 2009. And then in 2015, I was at a party and moved to New York, and there was another guy, it's so weird, another yoga teacher, right, who was also a civil rights lawyer. And I was like, this is perfect. Like, he's passionate, he cares about the world, and we went on a date, and we were at dinner. And I told him about it, and it was 2015. So I had all the research on my phone. I was getting started, getting ready to launch U equals U. And I'm so happy this happened, because I told him, and he said, oh, I didn't know that. I haven't dated anyone who's HIV positive. And I said, I think you probably have if you're 35, and went back to his place, and things happened. And he was scared. He was like shaking, right? And I said, what's wrong? And is something wrong? I can tell you're afraid. He goes, I just don't know what I can do and I can't do. And I said to him, look, you're a really nice guy. I really would love this to work out. I just can't teach you this. And I don't want to give a science lesson before sex, and I said, this gives me more fuel to get this campaign going, because I don't want more people to feel rejected, to feel like they have to explain that they're not dangerous. I'm so tired of it. I'm still doing it now. I'm still have to convince people that, that the U equals U is true, but it's different. We have the world on our side. So that was really how it got there. And I have to say, I'm so grateful to those guys, and I actually, one of them, I want to mention it to him, that gave me the emotional drive. And then it was more talking to people and hearing their experiences that were far worse than mine, far worse. People being told they couldn't have a baby, people having their tubes tied without their consent, people who attempted to commit suicide because of their HIV status and being told they were infectious, and millions of people still being told they're infectious when they're not. And so that's how it all came to be. And then it was developing strategy and you know, and then the fun part of it is really, you know, the bringing people together, the coalition we built, and
Yeah.
that stuff.
Well, before we continue, let me remind everybody you are watching Put It Together Conversations. I'm your host, Daniel G. Garza. Today, our guest is activist and founder of the You Equal You movement, Mr. Bruce Richman. Remember, if you want to join the conversation, all you have to do is just ask a question. Make sure you go into the black background thread of the video so I can capture questions and share them with Bruce, and we'll answer them right here. Uh, it, it's it's really interesting how, because I'm as you're speaking, I'm going back to when I was first diagnosed, and how that first person that you connect with, whether it's going to be for a relationship or just a hookup, how it really sets the foundation for where you're going to go and how you're going to take it on. I was very fortunate that the very first guy that I met post-diagnosed had been a nurse. He wasn't a nurse anymore, but he had been a nurse. So when we met, and like you, like the first night, I was like, whoa, he was bartending when we met, and ended up going home with him. And before anything, I was like, look, I've got to say this before we go even home together. And he was like, oh, I was a nurse before. It's cool. I'll tell you what not to do. And I was like, what? Like, you're gonna? And at first I was like, how dare you tell me what? And then I was like, oh my God, like this is really cool. Like he made it very easy, but not everybody has that transition. And yeah, after him, there were people I dated that just were not on board. I'm going to the bathroom at dinner and never come back. And
Yeah.
yeah, I had one of those. And like you, he remembered, and years later, when I was in Dallas for in Houston for a conference, he saw me out at a Starbucks and came up to me and apologized for what he had done. And I was like, in the back of my head, I was like, yeah, now that I'm being successful, you apologize, whatever. But
I
what
see
has been,
William. Hi,
huh?
William. I see William on the screen down there.
Yes, William, and then Drew Benson, who's a good friend of mine, and Butch McKay. Thank you for joining the
Oh,
conversation.
nice. Oh, I didn't see.
And uh, so during the process of it all, things might have. I'm sure things got a little where you were questioning. Maybe, is this something that I want to take on? Is this something that I want to go forward with? Was it like that? And did you have a pep talk for yourself?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, I had a good job, you know. This is amazing. This is my dream job now, but I was making a living. I was, you know, saving money, and I was pretty comfortable with the work that I was doing. It was fun and it was meaningful. And I just had to do this. And I remember I talked to my mom. Again, it goes back to my mom, where I said, you know, I was living in Miami and was driving up to New York because I knew New York would really be a good place to do this. And I was like, can I really do this? You know, I don't have that much money to take this kind of a risk. And I didn't have any funding to start off. And in 2015, and she said, you have to do it. You know, there's no choice. You have to do this. I know there's a passion in your heart. And then I just never even thought of anything else after I just committed to it, especially when the researchers worked with us, myself and Carrie Foote put a lot into this. Worked on this consensus statement. And then I thought, my God, if these researchers can step out of their comfort zone, you know, researchers don't typically write a consensus statement on the whole body of evidence. They'll write about their own research, you know, but these researchers who conducted the pivotal studies that prove U equals U came together, and we drafted over a period of, it was about 6 months, a statement to confirm it. And I thought, wow, this is big. You know, this is really big. This is what we need. The people with HIV around the world need it. This is going to be the holy grail. I can't stop. And my life is so meaningless compared to this. I'm a small part of what this is. This is bigger than me. So any of whatever I had to give up or go through is so little compared to what we're doing, and yeah, I was compelled. I was a crazy U equals U man. Just like everything,
Now,
don't get in my way. So it's like,
and I think that's one of the things that connects us all. And I used to be very about like, why don't more people want to collaborate? Why don't more people want to get to? But sometimes I think that you just kind of call me out on a positive side, but you just call me on it. It's because we get on this track, and you're just like, I have a destination to get to, and because it's bigger than you, it's like driving. It's like like being the conductor on a train. You got
yeah,
all these people that want to get somewhere, and you're driving, and you just can't stop. You
it's
got to keep going. Um, Now, there's a lot of people that watch my show because of the advocacy work that I've done over the years, and maybe this question will make sense to you. Actually, let me put it another way. A lot of people commend me or talk to me or say to me like, "Oh my God, I can't! Thank you for doing this. Thank you for." But I always tell them like, everybody can be an activist. Everybody can be an advocate. What have been your roadblocks or challenges in being the spokesperson, and what have been some of your highlights for being a spokesperson?
um, I think part of the challenge of being a spokesperson for me was not wanting to make it about me. I mean, if you talk to our staff, you talk to a lot of people that have been with this from the beginning, I didn't want it to be about me. I told Oriol Guterres, who was the editor-in-chief of Pause, when he wanted to do the U equals U, I said, I'm not going to be on the cover of it. And when there was a photo of, you can do it, we can do it with a group of people who are part of it. And then the Plus magazine, there was like a most amazing people kind of thing. And I remember Carrie Foote wrote it, and I said, Carrie, put a group photo in there. It didn't end up being a group photo, but there's a balance between people wanting to hear from the U equals U guy and wanting to hear the story from the beginning and wanting to hear, how do you build a movement? How did this become a movement in 102 countries, of every person, every background of a person with HIV, are driving this around the world. How did that happen? So they want to know that. And I'm the person who was there from the beginning. There's that versus I want to promote other people. I want to build leadership and among our staff and our ambassadors. So there's that challenge between the two of, and also just telling my personal story. What I told you earlier was only the second time I've even told that story,
Oh, wow.
about the rejections on the date. Yeah, because part of me is like, I'm on stage and I'm talking. I mean, I've been speaking all around the world, right? All these different environments, and every time that I'm there, and I'm up there, and I don't think people want to hear my story. I don't think they want to know about me. They want to know about what U equals U is, but public speaking, basic public speaking is bring yourself into it, bring your story. It's always that sort of thing. So I'm gonna do that more, but it was a challenge. That was a challenge for me to put myself out, and start to realize that, some people do want to talk to me. And also I got really beat up in the US, it's a tough environment, I don't know if you experienced it, but my self-esteem, got, I allowed critics I listened to them too much. I listened to people who weren't really even doing the work, who didn't have any, there's no reason to, I wasn't being selective in whose feedback that I would take in. I would take it all in, and then I try to understand it. Like, why would that person think U equals U is dangerous or something? Or why would that person, not go and do a speech to 10,000, whatever, 5,000 people, whatever, some huge conference, and talk about how bad stigma is, and that we need to, address stigma, and then not mention the biggest tool we've ever had to demolish stigma, right? I mean, I would be like, but then I also got, you also, whenever you put yourself out, you probably do too, you'll get personal digs, which were just like so unfair. People didn't know me and they would say things. So um, that was a challenge as well to being. So then I was like, that put me even more wanting to be behind. And then you'd hear someone go like, but we want to hear, we want to hear from you. We want you to come to the speak at this thing. So it's just sort of a balance. And my self-esteem is not affected anymore by what anyone says on Twitter or behind my back, or, you know, coming up to me and saying I somehow offended someone. These are all learning experiences, you know.
Yeah,
And
I remember the first time I heard about it, and like many other HIV advocates, you know, we get the emails and but all of a sudden it was like this, like everybody was talking about it, and obviously as an advocate, I was like, okay, I need to find out what this is. Um, I'll admit, and I've said it in other places, I'll admit that having been, this is my 20th anniversary. September was my 20th anniversary being positive. And so I come from that school of like, be careful, don't do, don't. There was a lot of don'ts and as far as sex was concerned. So that was, it was very easy because of my upbringing. I always tell people, because of my upbringing, culturally, religiously, the don'ts stick very easily in my head. It's very easy to tell me, don't do something. And I'm like, okay, I won't do it. So when I was growing up, HIV positive during those times, it was like, don't do stuff, don't do stuff. All of a sudden, you come and tell me that the world is not flat. And I'm like, what? And I had some conversations, and there are some people that I ended up not talking to anymore because there were debates. And one of my big arguments was, you can't just throw this at everybody and expect everybody to just eat it up. Like, it's going to take some time. There's a lot of cultural, there's a lot of religious, there's a lot of social ways that we're learning things. So just give it some time. Over time, I became a fan. I'm like, okay, I dig it now, especially when I realized what a weight it lifted off of me. Um, and once I took the energy, and this is just for everybody who knows me, knows about my energy work. Once I took the energy away from the things that I thought I couldn't do, I was able to put that into all the things that I could do. And that doorway was so much bigger, and the garden was so much more beautiful. So for those of you who still don't know what U equals U, we're not going to get all into it right now, but I will put links and I will put interviews into the page so you can check it out, because I want you to do the research for yourself and I want you to find out for yourself. Um, and a reminder, we're halfway through the show. Just to remind everybody, you're watching Put It Together Conversations. I'm Daniel G. Garza, your host, and my guest today is friend and fellow activist and advocate, Mr. Bruce Richman. What have you learned about yourself during this whole journey?
hmm. um, Gosh, I've learned so much. I think I've learned I need to listen more. You know, I need to, and I need to have more patience, to some degree, more patience. But also, this is an emergency. You know, with stigma is an emergency. You know, people are dying from stigma, and I don't have much patience for people who, after 4.5, almost 5 years of this campaign, haven't done anything to share it, and they have so I have some degree of patience. Like you're saying, some people are going to come around later than others. You know, as people who are like you, is like are innovators. There are innovators. There's early adopters. There's, you know, late majority. Or, you know, there's different stages of people who come on board with new ideas or innovation. So I've learned about that. I've learned to be more patient with people at various stages, and I've learned a lot more about leadership. You know, and how to be a more effective leader, how to bring yourself into your leadership, how to be selectively vulnerable, you know, not always, and I'm talking within, you know, within your teams, your groups, your boards, you know, your within your movement, how much of yourself do you bring, and how much do you share? So I think I think I've learned a lot. You know, I think I think I also learned that I don't feel like there's a me, you know. I don't feel like there's really anything. I just kind of respond to what needs to get done, you know. I know
I
that
get
sounds
that.
weird, but yeah, it's
Yeah.
just this has to get done. I got to keep going. I'm just getting it done, you know, and who is Bruce doesn't really matter that much, you know. It doesn't matter that much, you know.
Sorry, something just fell in my kitchen. We'll pick it up in a minute. Ghost. But that makes sense. I think when we start being the face of something or the representative for, there is this pedestal or that we don't even look for, but it just starts growing underneath us. That all of a sudden you look around, you're like, oh crap, like I'm okay. Don't break down, don't break down, don't break down, and then you hold it on for so long. That you're like, okay, I'm breaking down. It's gonna happen. Uh, and then there will be the two sides of groups of people, like the people that support you being vulnerable and being human, and the people that will critique you and break you down even more. Um, how has because we talk a lot, we've mentioned stigma quite a bit today. Family has a lot for a lot of us. Our family, and you talk about your mom being like those initial supporters of saying, you got to go for it, just go for it. Um, does it ever, or has it ever like crossed your mind, or have you stopped yourself from doing things? You're like, okay, it's not just about me. The ripple effect is going to get to my family at some point. I got to watch what I do.
um I don't think so. No, I don't think my family, there's nothing that I would do that, you mean, that would sort of hurt my family or put them.
Yeah, because I know that there's, and I'll say, like, I know that there's sometimes, and probably you too, there's people that are approaching, like, hey, we have this campaign, we want you to join. And then you look into, you're like, that's not something that like I'm comfortable with. And then there's stuff that I'm like I would really want to do it, but no, like I know my family would not
Oh,
be
oh,
completely agree
no,
with this.
never, never. Yeah, it's always been, I mean, I haven't really had an opportunity to do something like that. That would ever, I haven't had that, like, it's never come across my
Yeah,
plate. Yeah.
yeah.
Because and I wouldn't do anything that would ever, um, hurt them or come back, endanger them in any way. And, I mean, one thing that I'm doing is, I'm very open about sex and my talks. And, that's not, I don't think, my job, I mean, we're in sexual health. And so we talk about a lot of stuff that's very, families typically wouldn't talk about, and so, I think, you know, and on my, like, social media, like on my Instagram, I post, pictures with my shirts off and things, to kind of, more sexual kinds of pictures, because that needs to be my brand. I feel comfortable with it now too. So that's I don't think that's the most comfortable thing for my family initially, but now I think it is, because they understand the importance of it. Um,
Well, in the name of most of us who follow you on Instagram, please continue to do the work you do. Please, I'm just going to put it out there.
right
Uh,
now.
yes.
Oh, D. Oh, oh,
Davina's on there. Yeah,
yeah.
Davina and my friend Roger, David Charles. Remember, folks, you're watching Put Together Conversations. I'm your host, Daniel G. Garza, with my uh, guest today, Bruce Richman. If you have some questions, those of you joining the conversation, if you have a question that you'd like me to ask, join the conversation, put it in there, and I will ask. Yeah, it's. I tell people still like I carry my Catholic guilt everywhere I go. And I think there's only a couple of shirtless pictures because of my ostomy work that I do sometimes. So I've done those for ostomy projects and to show my ostomy and show that reduce the stigma and shame in it. But then I hear the Catholic in me going, no, put your shirt back on, young man. I was like,
That internal voice, the critic inside.
how you're starting to talk a little bit about like the professional side of Bruce Richmond and the personal side of Bruce. Do they ever argue and how well do they get along?
Well, I think right now my argument or my push and pull is the personal life. Like I do want more of a personal life now. It's been 5 years since we started working on the consensus statement when things really got intense. And you know, I had a boyfriend for 3 years of the campaign who really left because he was number two to the campaign. You know, the campaign was number one, and I used to say to him, "This is bigger than me. It's bigger than us, and I have to keep focusing." You know, and he was an amazing guy, and I chose the campaign. Um, and so now I want to, or I will figure out how to give everything that's needed and more to U equals U, while also having more of time for self-care, more time for, for relationships. And, I've been seeing my family, which has been wonderful. But to really invest again in friendships, because I've been a very social person before this campaign. I mean, I still am. I have friends all over now because of this. Some of my best friends are in other countries and now through U equals U, but that's the balance now and my staff, I work with, people that are amazing. Like I love our staff meetings. I love when we're all, we're talking to each other. So more, U equals U and the intensity of U equals U. And there's so much work to do, Daniel. There is so much work to do. I mean, it seems like we're in the field, so it seems like it's everywhere. But if you step out of being in the field, there's people still don't know. They just don't know. So there's a lot of work around the world. And so doing that passion versus, and being in relationships, being present in relationships, putting my phone aside, taking weekends, the full weekend, these kinds of things are really important.
Where do they sell those? Can you tell me where to buy a full weekend? Because never go. Okay, of course, we're here on Saturday morning. Or lunchtime.
Oh, that's right. No, I'm not. Yeah, that wasn't like a veiled, like a smuggling in a criticism of this. No, I totally forget it's Saturday. But yeah, I think it's important, and I think it's important for you to do it too. Self-care. You can't care for others if you're not caring for yourself.
Yeah.
Those who bring sunshine to others need to bring sunshine to themselves. So that's a goal.
For those of you, I did take off the first yesterday. I did not work. I spent the whole day just watching TV and enjoying myself. Watched the Wonder Woman 84. I loved it. I loved it.
Oh, okay. I was lukewarm about it. Yeah.
We'll talk about it after the show. But
okay.
Yeah, there's so much. And okay, I'm not going to get into it for those of you watching. Right. There is so much
post-show
energy, spirituality, symbolisms that I caught on to right away. And I was like, oh, that's what they're talking about. So yeah, I was having a full-on gay moment yesterday with Wonder Woman. I was like, oh my God, it's so cool. But we won't get into that. Before we get to the 45-minute mark, Davina wants to know, how do you feel about U equals U moving it forward in 2021?
I am incredibly hopeful. Really, I mean, especially for the US, because I get tears in my eyes, but we have a really special team. Everyone is just such a stellar human being, first of all, like kind and, caring, and then the talents, the skills, the values, the character. It's a really good team for the U.S. And so we've been struggling in the U.S. And Murray Penner, I don't know if you know him, used to be executive director of NASTAD, is leading the group, and is like as a hero from the very beginning. Like he signed NASTAD on. He didn't even go to his board. He just signs the nonprofit. No other national nonprofit was on board with U equals U. This is September 2016. So now he's running it, and there's Cameron Kinker, who joined 2 years into the campaign when it was just me. So it was a really hard time. I mean, it was like boot camp. Like 2 weeks after he joined, he was at AIDS 2018 in Amsterdam, where U equals U was like everywhere. And it was tough. And he like soared and through this whole thing. And so he's like knows everything U equals U. And it just and then there's Dee, who I'd always been It is going to be an amazing year, D. And I'd always seen D and also DeAndre Moore, like before, before they came on board, and I was always admired them. And I was like, God, if I could work with them, these are incredible people. They're entrepreneurs. They make it happen. This is a field of a lot of talk and a lot of rhetoric and jargon. They just get it done. They talk about it, and then the next thing is they do it, and that's the way Cam is, and Murray. It's just like I'm so excited. I'm saying with Dimitri Daskalakis, who is running the division of AIDS at the CDC. Dimitri was the first public health official in the world to declare U equals U. This was August of 2016. So before anyone, he put it in writing, and he put New York City behind the campaign. So when he did that, the campaign really ignited. He's running the division of AIDS at the CDC. So. And there's another person, I don't know if you know Harold Phillips, who's the CEO of End the Epidemic. We have really solid staff, like the core US staff, and then the connections in the federal government, and then also really good nonprofits that are, I would say maybe about 10. There needs to be more in the US, but about 10 really solid nonprofits and some awesome public health departments. So we're in good shape. I feel really good. Internationally is a new area for me. So I'm excited about it. It's a huge learning curve for me. We have a lot of partners in many parts of the world who are asking for assistance, are asking for trainings and materials, and they want researchers and sometimes myself to come there and to push their health ministries. We've done that before in many countries, push health ministries, push AIDS organizations. And I've got to figure out with it's a learning curve. We're building an international advisory board, and you're going to have so that we can really figure out where to allocate resources in the most effective way to help get this message out, because people are really suffering. They are really suffering. The stories that I hear of the suffering and then the changes that have been made in people's lives.
Yeah.
It's just, it's incredible. People are having babies. They never thought they could have a baby. People are having relationships, or having sex that they never thought they could have. This is influencing criminalization work. But then on the other hand, people are dying from stigma. They're suffering, and this has to be seen as an emergency. We don't have all hands on deck yet. And so I'm hoping, I think we do now in the US, and that this group will get the big agencies. You could look at their websites. They still don't, some of them don't have anything about U equals U, or they only will mention it, tweet about it once every 2 months or something, but they'll tweet about PrEP, 3 or 4 times a day. I think this group will move those organizations to do their jobs in a sense and get this message out urgently to people with HIV and the public. And then, globally, it's big. It's big. It's a lot of countries, and it's very exciting. It's very exciting. I'm hopeful. I'm also a little I'm a little nervous about stuff, because even just the language of the global field is new to me. But getting the best advisors, getting the best people there to help us develop the strategy is going to be really, really key to success globally.
I'm more passionate about hearing where you're going because you're nervous. If you came on, you're like, we got this. I'll be like, dude, let's wake up a little bit, because things. And I humbly offer my voice and my space and whatever I can do in the Latino side.
Thank you.
We'll talk afterwards. Anything that I can do to help spread the word.
Absolutely. Thank you.
It is part of my curriculum when I do presentations for colleges, universities, high schools, anything when I do presentations or trainings. U equals U has become part of the curriculum when we talk about it to an extent. So
awesome. Thank you.
Especially because in my relationship, my partner's a negative and I'm positive. So it's part of our conversation. So I put it out there. So anything that I can do to help move it forward,
Thank you so
Put my
much.
name on your list. Put my name on your list.
Well, this is helping now. Just every opportunity to talk about it is important. Every single chance. It's, and even if someone told me recently, I'm just so sick of saying U equals U, but I know I have to keep saying it. I was like, yeah, you do. I mean, you might maybe take a day off and don't say U equals U, but think about all those people who don't know yet. Think about when you didn't know, when you were afraid to have sex with someone, or you're having sex with someone, or or you just want to be intimate with someone and you feel fear. Fear is in that moment of intimacy. So we have to keep. This is a great opportunity to keep talking. I take as many as many moments to talk about it as I can. I love talking about it. So
Do you have anybody on your staff that speaks Spanish?
I don't think so. No, we
Well,
usually translate it. Yeah, if you want to
then
help.
you're gonna have to train me so that I can do a presentation full
Yes.
on
Okay.
you here. So
Okay.
I'm going to. This is my commitment in 2021 to U equals U. That if there's nobody there in your department who speaks Spanish who can put this message out, you need to train me to do that.
There are ambassadors who speak Spanish. We have ambassadors. I think we have 20 now. They're not it's paid. They do. I mean, they are paid. They do get a stipend, but they're not staff. But they do, and they're trained to do presentations. But I'll still train you anyway. You'd be great to do presentations.
And then we'll have one of them on the show, and we can do
That'd be
we can
great.
we'll talk afterwards about putting that together.
Yeah, yeah. That'd be
Yes, I would love. It would be such an honor and such an asset to my advocacy work to learn and to be able to put it out there and not be just given the basics, but really, I'm a perfectionist. And I'm a brown noser. I mean, you must know that. Yeah. I always want to know more. Hello, Kelly Leader, for joining us. Thank you for joining us.
Hey,
So
Kelly.
we're past the 45-minute mark, and this is usually where I ask my guests to offer some words of wisdom to our audience. So, Bruce Richman, what words of wisdom can you share with us?
Well, okay. Words of wisdom. Wear a mask. And no, the words of wisdom would be, I think what I've really learned and is really important when you stick your neck out, when you're going into a system when you're challenging the way things are, when you're challenging, like we did, the way that public health information was distributed, and we were challenging the risk assessment. We were saying that risk assessment is wrong. When you do anything like that, most people are going to resist it because that's the way human nature is. We resist change. Our body resists change. It always tries to make things balanced. And so for me, it's don't go crazy about it. Don't try to see it as something that's natural and not to like kind of point back at yourself that it's a failing of what you're doing and your ability to communicate things to them. It's just natural. And a lot of people who have made change, even throughout history, have been ostracized. People are very uncomfortable about change, even when it benefits them and the people that they serve. And so, as you were saying, Daniel, earlier, it takes time. It takes time. It's gonna, so I think that's really, if you're gonna start an initiative, just keep going, and find your allies. I found some really wonderful allies that helped me stay on track during this last incredible journey with U equals U. And yeah, keep going. And there's always going to be territorialism in every field, and that's natural. People compete over resources, any kind of new entity. Just find your allies for support, and you could depend on them, and just keep looking forward.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and I think the last part you said it's true. It's like we're all like, we do get tired sometimes, and we do. It is sometimes you're just like, can I just not be Daniel G. Garza? Can I just be Danny for a little while and just not? But I think I know there was a moment, and I don't know if this makes sense to you, but there was a moment in my life where I put the hat on and I was like, okay, that's like, this is going. Like, I don't think there's a day that I don't want to talk about HIV, but it's part of me, not just personally, but professionally. And I say this all the time. Like I took HIV and I made a career out of it. I'm like, if you're going to live in my body, you're paying rent. Like we're going to make money off of you somehow. And I've made a career out of my status. Like and it helps. But there are days when I'm like, the only thing I want to do is just take my pills at the end of the day and just go to bed. But how does Bruce Richman unwind? What is your best unwinding?
Yeah, the self-care would be the other advice that I would give is that yes, self-care isn't selfish. It's important. And self-care for me lately is, certainly spending time with my family, often masked and often in a parking lot where we talk to each other. We talk to each other through the windows, but unless we've been isolated for a while, and then we'll get together. And then also, you know, I know this sounds cliche, but like walking on the beach, there's a beach near me where I can go and look at the water and just a lot of kind of, breathing. And I listen to a lot every day. I listen to talks, like leadership books and meditation talks and all kinds of stuff on consciousness raising and everything every day. That to me is self-care too. That's really, really important. It's sort of feeding my soul and feeding my brain positive stuff, And also the other thing I'll finally say is getting away from social media. Oh my gosh, I feel so much better. I'm hardly on Facebook at all. Although I don't mean to judge anyone who likes Facebook, but that used to drive me crazy because the number of notifications and the number of invites to like a hair salon in Los Angeles or a real estate agency in Miami. I'm like, I'm not going to LA. I don't buy a house. I'm not buying a house. I may never buy a house. And you're just like, it's so much noise. I would like to be on there without all the noise. And then if you don't respond to somebody's message, because I don't even see them and I'm not on there that much, or they're not on your timeline and you get a message what was wrong and you hurt people because you're not. It's crazy. It's like it's like 3 hours a day if you want to do it right, And so I'm not. And also the news as well, as I'll take like 3-day breaks from the news and not look at it at all. I stay on Twitter though. I'm on Twitter because it's just streamlined. It's just easier. There's not all the noise for Twitter. All I do in Twitter is look for #U=U, and then they come up, and then it's just easier. I can respond. Yeah.
It's people tell me like if you want to relax, get off social media. Like my job, my company is social media.
Yeah, you got to do it. Yeah.
I have to like one day off. Yes, like yesterday, I took the day off, but one day off, and then you come back and there's like all these messages, and not like I'm that important, all that, but people want to connect and to keep shows like this going on, doing 4 shows a week, sometimes 5. You've got to stay motivated. But I feel all of it. I love the energy. And plus I get to meet people like you and chat. And we're coming up on 300 episodes soon. And
wow, that's awesome.
That's a lot of people that I talked to over 8 years, and it's amazing. I love what I do.
Cool.
I can't let you go without making sure that a message to somebody out there, because unfortunately we're still getting new diagnoses from folks, especially the younger generation still. Message for somebody who's newly diagnosed and kind of in that dark space.
Okay. Well, I would just say that you're not alone in your diagnosis. You may be alone in your community. You may be alone in your family, maybe rejected by family and community. And that is horrible and painful. And there is support out there. There are people who want to help you and want to be there for you. There are people who have HIV from every single background imaginable that you could relate to. And so don't give up hope. You can live a long and healthy life. The medications that I take every day have had no side effects on me. I've had HIV for 18 years. And if you choose to go on medication and you get to an undetectable level, which most people will get to, you don't need to fear passing on HIV at all to anyone. You don't have to fear getting HIV, or you don't have to fear giving HIV. So it's really changed. There is support out there. I know what it was like to be alone when I had HIV, when I was diagnosed, and feel really alone. But there are people who are here for you, and you can live a long and healthy life and not have to worry about passing HIV on to anyone, no matter what you do. Love, sex, babies, no fear, no problem.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Don't go away. For everybody watching, you have been joining us on Putting Together Conversations. I'm your host, Daniel G. Garza. My guest today has been founder of You Equals You, Mr. Bruce Richman. If you missed any of our episodes, you can catch them here on Facebook or go over to YouTube, look for Daniel Garza, and you can find all of the episodes from the show, plus other videos. You can see some of the other stuff that I've been working on. Please follow me on all of social media. Speaking of social media, follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, where else am I? Rizzle, TikTok, and now Twitch. Twitch is the new one we're adding to our lineup. So make sure you can follow all of the episodes and other information. Remember, Lilmesican Productions has 4 shows during the week. You can catch us on Wednesday nights at 7:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time with the Christian and Daniel Show. On Fridays at 6 p.m. is the Card Devo. And on Saturdays, we have 2 shows, noon and 5 o'clock, for Put Together Conversations with a different guest on every episode. And every once in a while, we'll throw in a special 2 o'clock episode just because. So if you're watching this right now, make sure you go check out, which will probably be in the description, or there'll be a little tab here somewhere to go check out my horoscope predictions for 2021. So if you follow the Card Devo, you can go check out all the horoscopes and all of my intuitive predictions for the year. So go check this out. And remember, we're still open for business. So if you are interested in a reading or a session, get in touch with us right here. And if you want to share your Put It Together story, or you know somebody who has an interested Put It Together story, make sure you get in touch with us. The best way is to message me in any of the platforms or at Daniel G. Garza at LittleMexicanProductions.com. Daniel G. Garza at LittleMexicanProductions.com. And wherever you're watching, it'll be in the description. So go just email me there. We'll get in touch with you. Bruce, any last words before we go?
Well, first, thank you for having me. You're a great host. You're really natural. That's great.
Yeah.
And please, everyone, share You Equals You. There's still millions of people who don't know, probably hundreds of thousands of people with HIV in the United States who think that they're infectious and they're not. So please share the message. You can learn more about it at www.uequals, spelled out, u.org, or preventionaccess.org. Thank you for sharing the message, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Yes. Again, Bruce is the first guest of 2021. On a special, just for everybody, we can get through all this. We got through 2020. We made it. If you're here and you're watching, we got it through. Maybe it was rough. Maybe it wasn't the most pleasant. Maybe some people didn't make it to the new year, but you're here. You're here and you're watching. So let's just put our energies together and let's get through this one. There are some really good things coming up for all of us as long as we keep a positive mind. If you're going through that tunnel, remember, every tunnel has an entrance and an exit. So just keep going and you'll see the light at the end of that tunnel. So we'll be there waiting for you. Bruce, don't go away. Let me just say goodbye to everybody.
All right.
Thank you everybody for watching. This has been Put It Together Conversations. I am your host, Daniel G. Garza. And hey, put it together.